The Austrian Grand Prix has barely passed, and the British one is happening in a couple of days. Everything seemed to be going smooth in F1, but then, a sudden bombshell surrounding Max Verstappen once again. Mercedes has officially put pen to paper in concrete negotiations with Max Verstappen. Is this the bombshell that will reshape F1's driver market for 2026? Or merely a rumour? It started as chatter on the paddock walkways. George Russell, pressed by a journalist, let slip that Mercedes would be crazy no to speak to Verstappen, stalling his own contract talks. Suddenly, this looked like a real possibility, weeks before Toto Wolff raised an eyebrow in Monaco. Of course, it's always possible that something good will come out of the infrastructure and the people they have there, Wolff said back then. But if you start calculating how big that chance actually is, it would be a serious achievement if they could immediately make a big impact. A compliment wrapped in skepticism. Yet beneath Wolff's caution, a spark of ambition flickers. Is it too bold, too brazen, for the Silver Arrows to chase a driver who has rewritten F1 records? Or is it exactly the jolt Mercedes needs to reclaim its crown? George Russell's slip-up wasn't an accident. It was a trial balloon, a chess move on asphalt. What if Mercedes could finally pair their technical prowess with Verstappen's unrelenting hunger? Cue the counterweight. Helmut Marko, Red Bull's elder statesman, declaring from Spielberg that there is absolutely no reason that this contract won't be fulfilled. He waved away performance-based exit clauses. I couldn't recall the details off the top of my head, he admitted. But as things currently stand, there is absolutely no reason to worry about any sort of exit. Yet, behind that calm veneer, Verstappen sits third in the standings, a full 61 points adrift of his usual dominance. And then, there's the whisper within the whisper. Robert Dornbos, a man who once strapped himself into a Red Bull, insists that Verstappen's 2028 deal is laced with not one, but two secret keys to freedom. One if he slips outside the top three in the drivers' standings during the summer, another if Red Bull itself drops out of the constructors' top three. Of that I know, Dornbos said. It's in there 100% for sure. Because if a team can't deliver more, then a driver can't deliver either. Suddenly, performance isn't just pride. It's the lock on a door that could fling wide open. If Mercedes truly wants Verstappen, they must pry open that door. Imagine the backroom scenes. Wolff pacing in a glass office overlooking Brackley, dialing into calls with Verstappen's management. Dornbos confirms these conversations are going on since last year. In fact, that is not rocket science. Yet for Russell, it's a game of patience, twiddling his thumbs while the world waits to see which throne he will sit upon. Rewind to fall 2024, when whispers first surfaced. Mercedes, stung by years of defeat to Red Bull's aerodynamic wizardry, sought a Phoenix driver to light a fire under a silver car that had grown cold. Enter technical director James Allison, who is plotting a 2026 regulations coup. But a car is nothing without a soul behind the wheel, and few souls have burned brighter than Verstappen's. Picture the tension. Allison, pensive in the wind tunnel. Wolff, steely-eyed on the pit wall. Verstappen, helmet off, staring at a blank wall. What does he see there? Legacy? A new throne? Or the comfort of kingship already won at Red Bull? Loyalty wars with ambition in every chamber of that helmeted mind. What is loyalty worth in a world driven by tenths of a second? When does a champion become a prisoner of his own success? We glimpse Verstappen alone in a dark hangar, the roar of engines a distant heartbeat. He reaches for a framed photo of his first podium, cup empty, dreams full, and whispers, "Where next?" The question hangs in the still air, as heavy as the roar of a launch at Yas Marina. Mercedes' move is official. The paddock knows. The whispers have names. But will Max swap Red Bull horns for Silver Star folly, or will he remain the king of the charging bulls? Come 2026, will the streets of Monaco witness a German-engineered masterpiece powered by Dutch daredevilry? Or will this be remembered as the rumour that galloped on grandstands but never crossed the finish line? The die is cast, but the race for Verstappen's future has only just begun. Will Mercedes' official first move be the opening stanza of a new era, or the prelude to a missed checkered flag? F1 fans, the grid is yours. Where do you think Max Verstappen will park his helmet in 2026? And, more importantly, why? But before crowns are raised, we must reckon with the man standing at the gates of this drama. Christian Horner. When whispers turn to headlines, Red Bull's team principal does not want to hear anything about it. His steely dismissal echoes through the Milton Keynes tunnel, a challenge hurled at anyone who dares question his team's monopoly. Yet, when performance dips, as it did in Austria, ending a 77-race point-scoring streak, silence speaks louder than slogans. How long can Horner's bravado hold when the blueprints penned by Adrian Newey are no longer bulletproof? Behind closed doors, the corridors hum with tension. Yuki Tsunoda's struggle to salvage last place at Spielberg underscores a deeper malaise. A team built on perpetual excellence now scrambling for scraps. And while Helmut Marko assures us there's absolutely no reason for Verstappen to activate his exit clauses, the numbers tell another tale. Third in the standings, more than 60 points adrift, and a Constructors' Championship slot that once seemed a birthright now looking precariously out of reach. When loyalty is measured in podiums and prize money, how long until skepticism gnaws at the foundations of even the most unshakable contract? Meanwhile, whispers swirl about the 2026 regulations reset, the era when aerodynamics and power unit harmony will be rewritten almost from scratch. Toto Wolff sees opportunity here. The infrastructure and the people, he mused, could deliver a seismic shift, but the alternative vision is already taking shape. What if Verstappen, freed from Red Bull's winged bull, became the spearhead of a Mercedes renaissance? Imagine a silver arrow powered by Honda-derived engines, unlocked by a driver whose only fear is finishing second. Could this be the alchemy that turns Mercedes' resurgence into an undeniable reality? And yet there is a counter-narrative, the spectre of Adrian Newey's departure to Aston Martin. Fans murmur that Verstappen might follow the aerodynamic genius to arms greener than Milton Keynes or Brackley. But is that a plausible conspiracy or mere paddock gossip? If engineering loyalty can be bought with budgets and bonuses, can driver loyalty be far behind? The thought crackles through the paddock. Perhaps the real prize isn't a chassis, but the power to rewrite the lifespans of dynasties. At the heart of it all sits Verstappen, the man who embodies both kinetic fury and measured calm. When asked if he'd be at Red Bull next year, he shrugged off the question. "I don't think we need to talk about that. I don't know. Do you want me to repeat what I said last year?" His non-answer is a masterstroke of ambiguity, a smokescreen that fans interpret as either disinterest or controlled indifference. In truth, it may simply be the voice of a four-time champion who knows that, in F1, words are as combustible as fuel. It is in that ambiguity that our greatest tension lies. For every contractual clause, exit after a slump, leave if the team falters, there is a human heartbeat pulsating beneath the fine print. Robert Dornbos insists those clauses exist, 100,000% for sure. Yet he also reminds us that negotiations with Mercedes have been going on since last year, in fact. These are not the hallmarks of a publicity stunt. They are the careful movements of a high-stakes negotiation, where every phrase, every assurance, carries weight measured in millions. This is where the drama transcends speed. It becomes a tale of ambition clashing with allegiance, of corporations vying for the soul of a sport defined by singular will. Will Verstappen chase the Silver Star, rewriting his legend in a new livery? Or will he seize the bull's horn for one last charge, cementing Red Bull's hegemony before striding into sunset? And what of the fans, the lifeblood of this spectacle? We watch not just for the sound of engines, but for the stories that unfold. Betrayal, triumph, the razor-thin line between hero and heretic. We debate in forums, craft theories in bar stools, and place our hopes on Twitter threads. We are, in essence, Characters in the grand narrative of F1, each of us wielding a keyboard like a rallying flag. As the calendar turns toward 2026, every test session, every press conference becomes a chess move in a game with no fixed board. Mercedes has made its first move. Red Bull has drawn its line in the sand. Verstappen stands at the crossroads, helmet in hand, gaze fixed on an unseen horizon. So now, F1 devotees, the question returns to you. When the lights go out on that first race of 2026, whose colours will blaze across the podium? And more importantly, what will that choice say about the future of our sport?